Hey, I'm Mark Ruffalo, and I can't wait for you to see my new film, Dark Waters. Now, this is a project that's close to my heart, as it is the inspiring true story of heroic defense attorney Rob Bilott. He dedicated his life to expose the chemical giant DuPont, who has knowingly poisoned an entire community for decades with toxic chemicals. PFAS, also known as forever chemicals, have now created an urgent global environmental crisis. These forever chemicals are in many household products in the UK and have made their way into our environment. By bringing Rob Bilott's story to the big screen, I hope to show how one individual has the power to stand up against the system and make real positive change in this world. I am a corporate attorney. I defend chemical companies.
Well, now you can defend me.
This farm is like a graveyard. There's something wrong.
That's chemicals, I'm telling you.
That chemical, what if you drank it?
Drank it? You don't.
You need to tell me what in the hell's going on.
DuPont is knowingly poisoning 70,000 local residents for the last 40 years.
You want to turn against an iconic American company?
Yes.
You want to flush your career down the toilet? Be my guest.
He was willing to risk his family for a stranger who needed his help.
They have all the firepower. I know. I was one of them. Our government is captive to DuPont.
They crossed the line.
The system is rigged. They want us to think it'll protect us. We protect us. We do.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you today about the worldwide public health threat posed by PFAS chemical contamination. You know, this is contamination on an unprecedented scale, contamination of the entire planet with these man-made toxins that have the ability to get out into our environment, stay there virtually forever, get into living things, including all of us, and build up and stay there over time. Contamination that's been going on for the last 70 years, virtually unnoticed, without any of us really even understanding that we were being exposed or that this contamination was occurring. And why is that? Because this information about these chemicals and the threat that they pose to all of us was essentially covered up and withheld, not only from us in the public, but from the scientific community and the regulators. And what you see in the film Dark Waters is what it took for one family in one community in West Virginia along the Ohio River to actually uncover and reveal the story to the rest of the world about just one of these chemicals, PFOA, and all of the efforts and all of the struggles that it took to bring that information out and to actually get information to the public and the scientific world and the rest of us about what this chemical is doing to us.
Your scientists found, quote, significantly higher incidence of allergic, endocrine, and metabolic disorders, end quote, as well as, quote, excess risk of developing liver disease. Do you see that?
Yes.
Moreover, you have infertility at Teflon, occurrences of leukemia. You have excess of cancers, bladder, kidney, oral, pharynx. Next paragraph, 78. You see that heading? You see that date? You see that? Exhibit 96. Exhibit 53. I'd like to move on to birth defects. Do you see this here? Quote, child, 4 months, 1 nostril, eye defect, end quote.
Yes.
2 of the 7 women, nearly 30%, gave birth to babies that have the exact facial deformities that your company already knew about.
We're done here.
Sir, his parents named him Bucky. Bucky Bailey. This is your receptor.
And unfortunately, what we've seen in the meantime is that as that information finally came out, the company started simply tweaking these chemicals and changing them just slightly. To now we know that we are being exposed to hundreds, if not thousands, of these related per and polyfluoroalkylated substances, or PFAS, that are showing up in our air, in our water, in our soil, in the blood of all of us. And people are demanding that there be actions taken and steps taken to try to control these chemicals and to make sure that the story you see in dark waters isn't repeated 1,000 different times in 1,000 different communities across the entire globe. We now know that these chemicals are showing up not just in the United States, but in Europe, in Asia, all over. And I'm hoping that those of you that are able to watch this film, to watch this video, have the opportunity to be engaging in the types of discussions, the types of debates that we need for us to figure out effective, efficient ways of regulating and restricting this entire group of chemicals going forward, so that the story you see in dark waters isn't one that anybody else has to experience or repeat.
Holy crap! Rob! What? I thought someone was breaking in, for God's sakes!
No, it's just me.
Rob, you need to tell me what in the hell's going on.
We're being poisoned.
Rob?
What? I mean it. DuPont is knowingly poisoning us.
You mean the farmer? His land?
All of us. Please don't look at me like that. They're already poisoning the baby.
No, I'm not listening to this.
Sarah.
Stop it! Just stop it, okay? Do you hear yourself? You are acting like a crazy person, tearing up our floor, scaring me half to death. I know it's my job to support you, but that does not mean you get to come into our home, to our family, and tell me that our unborn child is being poisoned. No!
I'm sorry. Can I please explain?
Explain what?
All of it. And if you still think I'm crazy, I'll drop it. I swear to God.
Those chemicals that we know of shows that they're very, very persistent. And they're also toxic of a variety of different toxicities. And that gives rise to concern for the whole row of chemistries. So you have a lot of chemicals that we know very little about, but they do have certain parts of their chemicals in common. And it's exactly those parts that in the chemicals we know, they show that they're persistent, will be around for decades and decades and decades. And here in the European Union, we started regulating them. We've regulated various types of these chemicals, also chemicals for which we do not have the actual data, because we could group them together and then say it's highly likely that those that for which we don't have the tox data, that we can actually ban them and restrict them. And that we've been doing, starting with the classical PFAS chemical through PFOA, through a number of their variants. And we've just started a program together with a number of member states to really look at the whole block of all the PFAS chemistries in one go and see which ones of them we should regulate when. And to maybe finish off with, in terms of the film Dark Waters, for which this year is an occasion at OECD to get together. It is a film which raises attention in the public that there can be chemicals out there that really cause concern. And we think that this type of awareness of the population, of people, of the citizen, that chemicals can cause concern is good. And at the same time, they should turn to authorities like we have here around the table at OECD to look for the answers. And we need to be active, proactive, and transparent towards them to show that we do take these concerns serious, which have a root in something real, and that we will be there in order to protect them.
Countries are eager to identify and share solutions to reduce the risks from these chemicals. And this is where the OECD has a role to play. The OECD Chemicals Program provides a platform for countries to exchange experience and risk reduction approaches, identify alternatives to PFAS, or develop guidance on how to best group chemicals within the family to better understand their properties. Chemicals make up everything. We need chemicals. However, we also need to better manage the risks and shift to more sustainable solutions.
When it comes to PFAS, we were actually the first fashion brand to start to phase that out. And earlier this spring, we joined the movement No to PFAS, which was initiated by the global NGO Chemsec. In our industry, PFAS has been commonly used due to its water repellent properties, but as you know, it's widely used across many industries around the world. But if we look at the journey that we have done around PFAS, it's interesting to see what we have learned and also different steps that we have taken along the way. And we started actually 2002 when we restricted the PFOS in our products. 3 years later, in 2005, we restricted another similar chemistry called PFOA. In 2009, we started to work together with different chemical suppliers to find safer alternatives to PFAS. And in 2010, it resulted in that we were able to have our first children's overall completely free from PFAS. In 2013, we decided to adopt a global restriction for all PFAS in production, but also the presence in the final products. And this includes both apparel, homeware, as well as shoes. And since 2018, we have no H&M Group branded cosmetic that contains PFAS. So overall, it has been a very interesting and most importantly, learning experience that had also affected a lot of our other chemical work. Safe input is key. It is the prerequisite for any product and its life cycle, and it is critical that we know that safe is really safe. Here we really believe that we need to have a common methodology across the industry to make sure that we have that. And we believe that collaboration with our business partners, with our collaboration partners, with our brands and even competitors is key to make that happen. We all share the same vision, and that is to, in the end, have a toxic-free and safe fashion industry. And we hope that many will be part together with us on that journey.
UK is currently a signatory to the Stockholm Convention, which bans and restricts the production, use and emissions of substances listed as persistent organic pollutants. And the UK government engages with the Convention on the Management of PFAS as a group of chemicals. Most recently, they participated in the OECD, where the UK offered scientific advice to support work on new PFAS assessments and life cycle approaches. But there is a lot more to be done. While the UK is a signatory on the restrictions introduced by the Stockholm Convention, we will be leaving the EU's REACH regime on the 1st of January 2021. I've continually pressed the government on what will replace the scheme and also sought assurances that a chemical strategy is introduced to cover the UK. It cannot be allowed for the government to introduce a future UK REACH regime that is less protective than the current precautionary approach of the EU REACH framework. I intend to hold the government to account by examining the 25-year environment plan, which has specific targets to reduce emissions of POPs to the environment, and further scrutiny can be achieved by examining the government's own triennial national implementation plan, which will set out their ambitions for the next 3 years, and it will report on previous actions and targets.
As the critic for environment and climate change for the New Democratic Party, it is incredibly important to me to ensure that we have the kind of strong regulations that will ensure the safety and well-being of our communities and our environment. I have been focused on Canada's Environmental Protection Act, SEPA, and Canada's Environmental Protection Act needs amending, it needs updating. It has been decades, it is long overdue, and if we want to protect Canadians from the threats of our modern world, we need the kind of legislation that is built for that will actually protect Canadians from toxic substances and from pollution. And as a member of the Standing Committee on Environment and Sustainable Development, I have also been pushing for a study on the enforcement of SEPA. In response to one of the questions that I submitted to the House of Commons, Environment Canada provided the information that we have actually been doing fewer inspections, fewer investigations, fewer prosecutions over the past 5 years. And that's extremely troubling. So I'm going to be continuing to put pressure on our government to live up to their responsibilities when it comes to protecting Canadians from toxic substances and pollution. I'm also fighting to ensure that we have the right to a healthy environment enshrined in law in an environmental bill of rights. And this is so that all Canadians and all communities can have the guarantee of clean water, land, and air. I also believe that we cannot go about business as usual. We must continue to work together as citizens, as policymakers, as advocacy groups, and as legislators to ensure that we have a safe, sustainable future for all.
They can't go back on everything.
Well, they're a titan of industry. I mean, they can do whatever the hell they want. Nothing else matters.
They can fight you all they want. It doesn't take away from what you've done.
Of course it does. That's exactly what it does. They want to show the world it's no use fighting. Look, everybody, even he can't crack the maze, and he's helped build it. The system is rigged. They want us to think it'll protect us, but that's a lie. We protect us. We do.
It's about human rights. It's about exposing us to health risks without our consent. Markets must stop without safety being proven. The costs to society due to harm to human health and remediation have been estimated to be tens of billions of euros every year only in Europe. The damage is now irreversible, and it is our environment, as well as the current and future generations, who pay the bill. The companies that have poisoned our environment and our bodies must pay for this damage. We call on the governments in the world to protect us and to take action without delay. It is time to phase out PFAS and apply the polluters pay principle.
PFAS are a broad group of some 5,000 individual compounds with many different functional groups and uses. Many of them may be proprietary molecules, but they're bound together by all possessing the perfluoroalkyl group, which also means they transform in the environment to form the perfluorinated compounds such as PFOS and PFOA. There are analytical methods that can measure the total class by taking advantage of this transformation process, such as the top assay, meaning the whole class could be measured and regulated. Replacement PFAS, such as short chain and perfluoroalkyl ethers, appear to create a more significant environmental hazard, as there are so many polyfluorinated varieties and transformation intermediates, some of which have been shown to be 10,000 times more toxic than the perfluoroalkyl acids they create, such as PFOS and PFOA. On a positive side, there are many more fluorine-free alternatives now being developed. Fluorine-free foams, first developed 20 years ago, are advancing, such that they're passing the most stringent tests for firefighting, such as the International Civil Aviation tests. There are waterproof fabrics available for mountaineering, and many more fluorine-free products becoming available, meaning as a society, as we move into the future, we likely no longer have a need for PFAS in most applications.
Hello?
Mr. Bilott,
Yes?
I guess I should start by apologizing for taking, 7 years to call you.
Who is this?
Oh, yes, of course. It's Dr. Karen Frank from the
Science panel?
Again, I'm so sorry to have kept you waiting this long, Mr. Bilott. But there was just so
Please,
much data that it...
doctor, please, would you just please tell me what's happened, what's happening, what you found out?
Yes. You gave us an unprecedented amount of data. largest epidemiological study in human history. It's irrefutable. We have linked sustained exposure to C8 to 6 categories of serious illness. Kidney cancer, testicular cancer, thyroid disease, preeclampsia, high cholesterol, ulcerative colitis. 3,535 people in the class already have these diseases. Many more will develop them. Thanks to you, the entire class will be monitored, and those who get sick can seek restitution. You did a good thing here, Mr. Bilott. You did good.
Thank you.
We protect us. And film inspires policy action. Dark Waters has already achieved significant change in a global arena, shifting regulatory approaches to PFAS and chemicals towards a cleaner, greener future. And now we're asking all countries to act. How? We're asking you to implement an effective PFAS action plan with a timeline for a complete PFAS phase-out and with a deadline for restrictions to commence. We're asking you to improve your strategy for effective PFAS management and promote the use of alternatives. And we're asking you to adopt the No to PFAS corporate pledge to inspire and promote responsible business. We all need to work together to make this happen. We protect us. Think film. Think impact.